Hello and welcome everyone to the 15th episode of Across the Decades. I'm joined by my ex-gym coach, longtime friend, John, also known as Jamantha. We'll get into that in a little bit. To kick us off, for those that aren't watching, tell us, what are we drinking?
We're drinking some Miller Lights, a classic.
Classic. Oop, and a little spill. But also, a little bit different setup this time. We're outside. And why is that?
So we can smoke some cigars and enjoy the last of summer.
This is, we are coming up on a pretty hot September, actually.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, I guess to start off, as always, would you mind telling us how we met?
So I believe we met about 8 years ago, probably around this time, at a Iowa football tailgate. It was hosted by, I think, Kaylin's mom.
Yep.
And then you were in town to visit Jackie, who was living with Emma at the time. And me and Emma had just recently started seeing each other. And then...
you guys were dating at that point? It's pretty early on.
I think maybe. Yeah. Or, I don't know, there was a little gray area at the start, of course, but I think so. And then Jackie said, I got this boyfriend coming from Illinois State. He's going to be staying with us for the weekend. Mm-hmm. And then, the first time we spent real time together was that tailgate.
Now, there was some... lore also behind that tailgate. So of course that was when we first met, and I was introduced to you as John, but throughout the course of the tailgate, I guess I became aware of a what's the word I'm looking for? A descriptor of your shirt, basically, where you were wearing an Iowa shirt, as anyone would on a tailgate.
Yep.
But what was odd about your Iowa shirt was that, was it just the I, or the whole thing was actually lowercase?
So it was just the I was lowercase, and then the OWA were all uppercase, but they were all like the same size letters.
Yeah.
But the I was written lowercase. And Iowa, it's all block, all caps, Iowa.
Yeah.
And you could not believe that I had a shirt that had a little I on it.
And for whatever reason, also, when I was first introduced to you, I was like, oh, John, like, what is that short for? And in my head, instead of going to the obvious, the one correct answer, I decided to go with Jamantha. And so from there, I just called you Jamantha. I mean, it was probably extremely annoying for the first time.
The first day I met you at that tailgate, we both had plenty of alcoholic beverages.
Yeah.
And all you could say was Jamantha, and I can't believe that your shirt has the little I.
Just roasting you upon arrival.
Seriously. And I remember walking back with Emma. I was like, wow, that guy, I don't think he's the best. And in my head, I'm thinking like, it's this girl I'm seeing's roommate's boyfriend who doesn't even go here.
I'll never see him again.
I was like, I'll never see him again. No big deal.
Yeah.
And then here we are 8 years later.
Yeah, look at that. Smoking a pipe and a cigar.
Yeah.
So, that was, 8 years ago? So you've been dating Emma for 8 years.
Yep.
Tell us, what's that been like? I mean, you guys met in college. Maybe that's a good place to start. How did you two meet?
So we met at Airliner it was Emma's birthday, actually, or her birthday celebration.
Quick lore for Airliner. Is that where Ashton Kutcher used to work?
I don't know. Is that where he used to work?
I think so. You might need to start adding that detail.
I might need to start adding that detail.
So you met Emma at Airliner?
Yeah. So Emma was at Airliner. And earlier in the day, me and my friends, he was showing me this meme about how if a girl is sitting at a table with two guys, that means she's not with either of them. And
Insight.
So Emma's with this large group, and I'm just walking through the bar, and she's sitting at a table with two guys, and I was thinking to that thing that my friend said.
Adage.
Like,
proverb.
The proverb, right. And I was like, let's just see if this is true. So, I sat down next to her, I started talking to her, and if you know Emma, it became quickly apparent how important her being Italian and her Italian heritage is to her. So, of course, I'm somewhat Italian, but in that moment, I was fresh off the boat. I was mixing my actual heritage of my parents did get married in Italy.
Oh, they did?
They did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they got married on the Amalfi Coast in Sorrento.
So
beautiful. I was mixing that in with just, some stretched truths per se. And I was like, wow, I really like this guy. And then,
yes, the Checo.
exactly. So I told Sunday dinners, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then, it was happily ever after ever since. Your Jackie is actually the reason that I couldn't take her home that night.
Yeah, so if I recall, as one does out at the bars, you guys were having a lot of fun, and I think in a commendable fashion, you were like, "Oh, I really like this girl." Of course, I wasn't there. This is just what I've heard.
Yeah.
This is the lore that I've gotten. And you were like, "I really like this girl. Like, trust me, I do really like her." Blah blah. And then Jackie, as a good girlfriend, she was like, "Listen, you gotta show your worth.
Mm-hmm.
If you really like her, you'll call her the next day." And sure enough, that's what you did.
Yep. Yeah, I told Jackie I was going to take her home. Nothing nefarious.
You're gonna cook some Italian food.
Cook some food for her, and Jackie's like, no. Just text her tomorrow. And
there you go.
All right, that sounds good.
As it should be done. Yeah.
That's why Jackie's such a great friend.
Yeah. None of the. Well, I don't know what would be your go-to Italian dish. If you had to put your Italian lineage or descendancy on the line, what would be your go-to?
My go-to would be embracing my very Americanized Italian heritage. Would just be chicken parm. That's the best. It's not hard if you do it right, and it's so good.
Family recipe, or is it something that you just learned on your own?
I mean, sort of. My dad made chicken parm all the time. There wasn't like a special secret to it. It's pretty,
No special ingredient?
Nah, not really. Just good sauce. Take your time with the chicken, nice and crispy, nice and thin.
Yeah.
You're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, especially here in Chicago, you get a lot of good Americanized Italian food.
Yeah.
It's still good. A chicken Vesuvio.
That was invented in Chicago. That's
actually
one of my favorite things to order at a restaurant. It's chicken Vesuvio. Can't go wrong.
Now, with that said, one thing that we do have to talk about is, as you mentioned, you were dating Emma. Being Italian and Italian culture, of course, was a big thing. Mostly for her because she still speaks Italian. You guys took trips to Italy, but you come to find out later on that maybe there were some stretched truths in your Italian lineage.
Yes.
How do you come to find that out, and what was that like?
So that was at a family picnic, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, with my mom's side of the family, who's all from Wisconsin, and. We have these big reunions, and it's usually just a normal Midwestern grill out. Everyone brings brats, salads.
Yep.
We eat, have a couple beers, and it's all good. But for some reason, this time they brought out this traditional polka game and song that goes with it. And then everyone's dancing around, and everyone knew the words. And I was so confused. I'm like, what is this? I've been coming to these for at this point 25 years, and I've never I've never seen this. And they go, oh yeah, we're all 100%, basically 100% Czechoslovakia. And I knew we were part, but I always thought my mom was half Italian and my dad was full Italian. And so then everyone there is roasting me, like, how did you not know?
Oh, so they've known this for a prolonged period. Like, this wasn't a revelation anyway.
This was a revelation to
just
me.
to you.
To nobody else. And so Emma couldn't believe it. She was laughing. She's like, how did you not know? My mom was like, did I not raise you right? And I'm like,
oh, man.
I was telling her, I'm like, listen, our last name's DeCecco. We go to visit Dad's family in the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Italy 2.0.
Right. For 4th grade, she sent me to class, Culture Day with a crock pot of meatballs and an Italian poster. So I'm just like, I don't know if I've just been missing it or if this whole time it was just
miscommunication or get some sort of gap that wasn't. So at this point you're like you said, 25, somewhere around there, and your family comes out with this. So this is a new celebration. Some sort of dance or some sort of game.
They were singing a song and there was a game to go with it.
And did everyone know the rules for this game, or was this the first time they kind of bring this up? Because you said you've been going for a long time.
Yeah, so a bunch of my mom. So my mom's from a really big family. So they have 14 siblings.
Nice.
And then so the reunions, of course, are all different generations. But so all her sisters all knew everything, and some of the older cousins. And then me and Grace are sitting there, and I was like,
"Oh, what did she know?"
She knew more of our family history than I did. But I asked her about it. I'm like what is this song? Why? And she had never heard it either, so I was somewhat justified.
A little bit, yeah. You follow. Imagine she knows all the lyrics.
What is going on? But yeah, it was funny. Yeah, they would not let me live it down for the rest of the day, and even still, they think that I'm embarrassed of the Czechoslovakian, which I'm not. I said, listen, I had no idea.
Well, what I like about the story is your immediate response was to go out and buy just a T-shirt with a giant Czech flag that I forget. Did it have text under it as well?
Yes, it was for the World Baseball Classic was that summer, and Czechoslovakian or the Czech Republic. Well, now Czechia. They've changed the name a couple times, but it's Czechia now. They had a basically like beer league. Like national baseball team, made out of half of a fireman group, and then half some other players from here and there. But no major leaguers. They play in a qualifier in Europe. They make the World Baseball Classic in like a shocking upset, and so they're coming to Miami for like the final.
Yeah.
And then at same summer as I learn I'm Czech, and I'm like, I gotta support my guys. So I went out, bought a big Czech World Baseball Classic.
Yeah. It's just a patchwork of guys. Yeah, hard-working, blue-collar guys who...
they got destroyed by Shohei and the Japanese
team.
Oh,
they played Japan?
Yeah, they lost by like 25 or
so. Man. Hey, they got to play against Shohei.
Hey, they made it. That's what I was excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I know, actually I have an old friend who, his dad was the goalkeeper for Belize, which Belize was in a similar situation where the national team was made up just... a lot of blue collar, people that were working other jobs and just happened to be like the best at soccer in their area. And he was a goalkeeper. But I think they might have had like one professional player. And still, given that it's a national team, they got the opportunity to play with other national teams. And so he got to play in the largest stadium, at the very least in Mexico. I think maybe now University of Michigan has a bigger stadium. But at one point it was arguably like the largest stadium, if not on the Western Hemisphere, in the world. It's called the Azteca. And he got to play there against the Mexican national team, and like full stadium, crowd roaring, everything like that. I mean, they got destroyed, like 8-0 or 11-0 or something like that. But I mean, you still get. That's a great story. Yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
I mean, he tells us the story, and he's like, he was our soccer coach, so he was like, for me, when I was learning, I would play out in Belize with like a coconut, like that was our soccer ball. And then he got the opportunity to play in one of the biggest stadiums in the world with a full crowd. Doesn't matter if you got like destroyed. Hey, you were there.
That's awesome.
That's great. And that was a big event. Of course, Mexico with Rosarena was able to take on Puerto Rico. So Puerto Ricans think they're good at baseball. I don't know. There might be a new sheriff in town. But yeah, the final I think was a very anticipated moment with Ohtani and Mike Trout.
Japan versus the U.S.
Yeah. So do you think that's something that'll continue to gain steam? I know that they're trying to like put more publicity on that.
The world, I think it will, because baseball is an especially international game now.
Oh, for sure.
So many of the players come from the the Dominican, Venezuela, Mexico, Japan,
Cuba, DR,
Taiwan. Like they play it. It's not just one region of the world. It's all across the world. So I think it definitely could catch on. I thought it was really fun to watch this summer. Root on my boys from Czechia, but
No, I saw recently I saw this question posed on if Hispanics are better than like U.S. Americans at baseball, just because there's so much representation. But then they made the claim of like, well, there is a lot of Hispanic representation, but when you think about the best players, a lot of them tend to be like Americans. Whether it's, I think Derek Jeter, Babe Ruth. I don't know. You probably know better baseball top players than I do, but
I mean, like looking back in history, for sure.
Yeah.
But if you look recently, I would say the Dominican Republic per person,
just insane amount.
They have absolute stars all over the place. Their team was loaded with Vlad Guerrero Jr. I think Fernando Tatis. Like there's a long line of Dominican baseball players from such a small country that I think they might be the crown jewel of baseball.
Yeah, it's funny when you go to a baseball game, like you go to Wrigley Field or something, and you know how they play like their little intro music when they go up to bat. And it's always funny that they play like Latin bangers while you're watching in Wrigley Field. Like they'll be playing obviously like well-known Latin American stars, but it's like almost like 3 out of every 4 up to bat is a Spanish song, just because there's so much representation, at least right now, in baseball. But yeah, we'll see it. It'll be exciting to see how the U.S. does moving forward. So that's it.
Should have done more baseball preparation. I wasn't.
Yeah, you weren't polished up on your baseball stats. Well, actually, didn't they do a recent change to baseball stats where they incorporated like the Black Baseball League that used to be separate from the MLB, and so now like a lot of the trivia people have to like learn up on that.
I remember seeing that they're counting Negro League as like official professional baseball league stats.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be like a big change, because if I recall, there was a like the leading hitter or something like that would now be someone from that league versus someone from the MLB or something like that. I can't remember.
Oh, really?
But yeah, that's good to see. I guess going back, talking about, as we're talking about different countries and stuff, you actually go on a lot of trips. You go on annual trips with your boys.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What does the group consist of, and then where do you guys like to go?
So the group consists of all my my Iowa boys that I honestly just met by, happenstance. We all lived in Reno together on the same floor, the engineering building. So, and then we've been trying to make trips every year since the summer we got out of college to go to a different national park every year. And then we always have one like big physically challenging hike.
Okay.
And then like a couple just fun days to goof off and stuff. But it really centers around, we got to prove ourselves one day, and then the rest is just just
goofing off, having fun.
Guys,
just guys being dudes. And so you said this is the Iowa boys that you met while you were there. Well, how big is the group? Are we talking 4? Are we talking 12? Talking 20?
About 10.
Okay.
So there's 11 guys on the group chat, and I would say we get 9 to 10 every year. So
nice.
A couple people, in and out every year. But we almost always get everybody going, because we all try to make it a priority as much as we can.
That's awesome.
It's one of the weekends I look forward to the most in the entire year.
How far in advance do you try and make those preparations? I imagine with everyone's schedule, you kind of have to. Yeah,
you got to do it a little bit early. We usually, in like February, I feel like we throw it out there.
The field?
Like, we start thinking about a location, because it's such bad weather here, and everyone's got the winter depression.
Yeah.
And then it's like, let's start thinking about something fun.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start doing polls. Where you guys want to go?
Yeah.
And then it just kind of goes on from there. Pick out a B&B. What's our objective?
What locations have you been to?
So we have been to the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. That was our first one we went on. Then we went to Rocky Mountain National Park. Mm-hmm. In Denver, or outside Denver. And then we went to Olympia in Washington.
Ooh.
And then Shenandoah in Virginia.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Shenandoah, okay.
It's like a national, it's really nice. It's like in Appalachia, it's like a big river valley. So it's heavily wooded in the Appalachians. And then we just went a couple weeks ago, we went back out to Washington to Mount Rainier.
Nice. Or were any of those your suggestion?
I don't know. Maybe some of them I feel like were...
Maybe you were a decision maker, like a split the poll, yeah.
I'm a little bit of a decision maker. I'm a little bit of a... I am a little bit in the lead, I would say. Me and my friend Quinn, kind of... We have like a little side chat where it's important decision makers.
Yeah.
And then we
Well, you guys have an even number... Oh, no, you said it's 11?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 11, so at least you don't have an even number there. But out of those, which one would you say you recommend for someone, if they're looking either to go out and outing themselves?
I would say you have to go to Mount Rainier or Olympia. The North Cascades, that mountain range, it goes from like Canada all the way down to Northern California. I've only been to the 2 national parks in Washington, but I mean it's the most beautiful land, I think, in the whole country. It's like stunning. I
mean, there's a reason why so many, you get like the quote unquote like granola trope. They go there because of the opportunity to hike. I mean, it's such an expansive territory, and I've never been, but I've heard great things.
It's great because it's mountain range, but there's also so much biodiversity. So it's really beautiful. Like the Rockies are gorgeous in their own right, but they're like a little bit like brutal, right? Like this summer when I went to Denver with Emma and Bridget and Drew, but I met some of my college friends that moved there, and we did a 14er together.
Nice.
And it's like the views are stunning, but what you're in, it's just rocks, right? Because you're so far above the tree line. You're really just going up, and it's nice views, but the wind and the altitude and it's just. But in Mount Rainier in the North Cascades, they're a little bit lower, so there's just incredible biodiversity, and you can see it as you progress on your hike and get up the mountain. Just complete different shifts in the plants and the animals. I really think that might be some of the most beautiful land in the entire country.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean...
Not that I've seen it all, but, from what I've seen.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you recently came back. Is this constrained to the U.S. only? Or would you guys be open to doing something maybe even in Canada, Mexico?
It's been discussed, but I usually I keep the international trips for Emma, because she loves going international so much. Mm-hmm. So I like to keep... It's really fun that the guys' trips are just... like pretty affordable. We split an Airbnb by 10. Yeah. We eat out at McDonald's. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the total cost, we try to keep it low, and then I can save some money and go international with Emma and do things that she wants to do and that I want to do with her. Yeah,
I mean, also there's so much beauty within, the national border, right? There's so much to look forward or to look at, not just from obviously having the Rockies and the Appalachians, but would you guys consider something like the Grand Canyon or something like that? Like, there's so much that the U.S. has to offer that I think sometimes just gets looked past.
Yeah, I think we have it's like 45 national parks or something like that. Don't quote me, but and they're all different in their own way. Mm-hmm. And I think there really is incredible biodiversity in this country.
Yeah, you got to thank. I think Teddy Roosevelt would be a good person to thank for that.
First national park.
Yeah.
Yellowstone.
And you recently read a book on him. Did they talk about that at all? Like his idea for having national parks? Yeah.
Yeah, I read a book on him, and then I'm actually in the process of reading a book. I haven't finished yet, but it's called The Silent Spring Revolution, and it's about environmentalism in going from the 40s to the 60s to the 70s, because that was really like the second wave of national parks. And
was this the second book you read on him, or is still you're continuing? Is this the first?
This is that. So I read the book on Teddy Roosevelt. That was just about him.
Oh, okay.
And this book itself is about the environmental laws in the U.S. And how much change there was for the first time in like the 1940s and 50s, when people actually realized the damage that we were doing to the environment for the first time. Yeah. When they were realizing, we can't swim in this river anymore that we used to as kids because the chemical plant up there, and we have no water standards. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of an interesting read. I'm still working through it, but about just that there was actually no rules about what you could do to land. Yeah. And then the federal government came in and preserved vast swaths of just some of the most treasured land that we have, and actually put in laws to protect it.
Yeah, I wonder to what extent it talks about the philosophy of how humans have treated land over the years, especially at post the Enlightenment period. A lot of perception when it comes to property, or I should say land in general, is treated as a sort of tragedy of the commons, where you get this notion that for land to be good in any sense, it has to be under private ownership. And so that's where you get this what's the word I'm looking for? Not exertion, but this profit motive being the sole driving factor for land, instead of it being a common benefit to humanity and nature and land being a good in and of itself that can then be used in a different manner to benefit society as is needed, but it shouldn't be this sort of asset that's up for grabs, and whoever comes and claims it can in the quote, I think the Roman Empire had this law, I can't remember the Latin term for it, but they would say ownership is essentially you can use and abuse whatever it is that you own. And the more classical sense, I should say, from like the medieval period is like, well, you can't just do whatever you want to the land because what you do to that land affects other people by the very nature of you existing near that land or whatever it is, whatever else, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the government, as you mentioned, has to come in and set the restriction of like, okay, well, you can't just destroy this land for, I don't know if it's like mining or oil drilling or nuclear or whatever else.
Yeah.
Because while you are making a lot of money, like to what end or to what good is the end of having a ton of money while you're just like destroying all the families that live in this area?
Yeah.
So it's good. It's good that Teddy Roosevelt stepped in and made those.
Yeah, we should have more environmental protections, but
Yeah, no, I agree.
it's always good. But it's a good book.
Mm-hmm. How did you come across this book?
I don't know. Probably either like a TikTok or like Googling like good history books or
Yeah.
I enjoy reading about history, so
And do you tend to
Goodreads always recommends something for you too, so somewhere online.
do you tend to stick to, at least from what you've mentioned, a lot of the stories that you've shared have been either as it relates to American history or more, I would say, like in the last couple centuries history, like the exploration of Antarctica was another story that you shared.
That was a great book.
What was the name of that book for anyone interested?
Unbreakable.
Do you want to give us the
Story
short
of,
synopsis? Yeah.
Edward Shackleton.
Great name also.
I mean that story. If you're like an adventure book, I mean that really is just like the peak of just human survival and the human will to live.
Oh yeah.
Because everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. In Antarctica, thousands of miles away from any help. And I don't know how much you want me to give away about the book, but
okay, you can give a short synopsis for someone that's interested. Like you mentioned Antarctica, the will to live.
At this point, the South Pole had already been discovered, and he was one of the guys who wanted to do that, but didn't make. He came in second. I forget the name of the guy who discovered it, but basically,
Scandinavian or something like that, right?
Yeah,
I think,
yeah. There was a lot of. If I heard the name, I'd remember it. But anyway, this guy did it while he was still prepping his expedition because you have to get back in the day to get funders, because this was like a sense of pride.
Oh, for sure.
So he was an Englishman and he was trying to get money, and then it happened, and then he was like, "Well, this sucks." That was my life's goal. So then he decides he's going to be the first to cross the whole continent of Antarctica. So he brings teams of sled dogs and like landing boats onto this huge ship. And then his plan is to sail to Antarctica into Weddell Bay, land, to go on with the dogs, cross the South Pole, and then have his the rest of the crew pick him up on the other side. And he's going to be the first person to cross this unknown land. And then, literally before they even land, the ice sheets, the way they move and all the glaciers, they end up getting trapped, and then they end up freezing for winter. So there's months that they're sitting there and they're like, all we need is the ice pressure to relieve and we can continue sailing.
Yeah.
And they're like, any day now. And then it freezes solid, and then they know they're there for 8 months for winter. But they have food on board.
Yeah, I was gonna say the limited supply of food.
They think they can make it. They think they can survive until the ice starts melting. But, then people start going a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
They're hunting on the... so they're basically frozen into a glacier. So they're able to, like, walk for miles on this ice. And so they're hunting seals, they're hunting penguins, they're harvesting all this. They're like, oh, we're totally fine. And then as the ice sheets start to break up, which should be a good thing in theory, they actually end up smashing the ship.
Oh.
In the shifting of the thing.
Yeah.
And so they have to abandon ship, and they're on these... they're 2 landing boats and they're dog sleds, and they're trying to cross and camp on shifting, ice sheets.
Yeah.
And then, so basically they're just screwed. Like, this expedition hasn't started. They're completely screwed. At this point, they're just trying to get to any land.
Isolated too. The iMessage is not out yet.
Not out. And the nearest like whale station is like 3,000 miles away at the tip of Chile.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's like the nearest like civilized all year round. People are there because it's like a base for like whaling boats. And so anyway, so they're out on the ice. They just end up going as far as they can. You know, they're killing the dogs. They're eating the dogs. They're eating penguins.
They're eating the cats.
Yeah, exactly.
They're eating the dogs.
Anything that's moving, man. A seal came and charged at one of the guys, and they literally clubbed a giant leopard seal. You know, one of the predatory seals to death. And this guy almost got crushed under this seal. And then they're like, "Yeah, we're saved. We have so much food."
Yeah.
So yeah, they run out of stuff, and then this is like 18 months now, almost a year and a half. And then they finally get on the boats because there's enough water to sail. So they take these 2 tiny landing boats into the Drake Passage, which is the most dangerous sea in the world.
That's where the Pacific and the Atlantic meet, right?
Right.
So
it's the only point in the globe where there's no land, there's no land around the globe and open water. Mm-hmm. So like the winds there are like otherworldly because the water can just flow and flow and flow.
Yeah.
So yeah, they take their little landing boats, and then they land on this small island that's actual land, but it obviously can't sustain them for very long. So they leave like 20 guys on this island, and then like 6 of them go out and they try to get it to this whaling island. Mm-hmm. And so then now they take their boat and they're going on like a 3-week journey again through the Drake Passage, which is meant for massive boats, and they're on a tiny little boat. And then they sail for 3 weeks with nothing but a guy's compass, and they like in like a half-soaked map. Yeah, and just like looking up
at the stars. Yeah, imagine one of us being there now. We'd be so cooked. There's absolutely
immediately.
Yeah, like they're eyeballing the direction based on the position of the stars. I couldn't even tell you where the Big Dipper was.
Exactly. Yeah, like. Like on these hikes that we do, I'm like, we're like out in the wilderness, and I'm like pulling out my phone on the GPS, and I like downloaded the maps. And I'm like, like the trail's right over there. We're
like if it doesn't, if
moving in the right direction.
If it loads slowly, like you have a little like perspiration, like it's like not loading. You're like, oh, this is bad. Like all of a sudden the survival instincts kick in, but then it loads, and you're like, oh, we're good. Yeah.
But anyway, so then they made it to the whaling island, and they had to go on foot, cross this island. And then they just showed up like completely just, like scraps of men. Yeah. And they just fell in front of this whaling small village. And then they're like, where did you guys come from?
Yeah, now that's a survival story.
Yeah, like, no one died.
That's incredible.
That was the craziest part to me is they got the boat. The whaling people sent out a boat. Everybody survived.
How big was the crew?
It was like 20 to 30 people, I want to say.
Man. Unlike Magellan, the crew suffered no casualties.
It's Magellan.
Magellan, the first to circumnavigate. Yeah. If you want to see another will to live story, look up. I forget what Magellan's first name is. Frederick? I could be totally wrong.
I'll look him up. Magellan?
Yeah, Magellan.
I'll be able to find it.
Crazy story about being the first to circumnavigate. I mean, there's so many stories like that. I mean, there's also like the planes that crash into... what's that mountain range in South America? I can't remember.
The Andes Mountains.
Yeah, the Andes.
I've been scared to read that book.
Yeah.
It's on all my lists, but I'm like, they start eating each other. I don't know if I can handle that.
It gets bad, yeah. No, it's crazy. And of course, like, the human instinct to survive is just, it's there, and a lot of that is obviously pacified with the society we live in, which is good to a certain extent.
You wanna hear a funny story about relating to my guys trip and the will to survive? So the first time we went to Olympia, we brought my friend Abdul, who's a city boy from LA, and he had never really been like hiking before, and so we took him on like a 3 or 4 mile hike the day before, and he's like, "Oh, hiking's awesome, I love it." And so like, okay, we're doing an 18-mile loop, I think, with like a bunch of elevation gain. And I'm like, if you're not ready for this, like, don't come. And he's like, no, I got this. And so we're like 2/3 of the way up. He's like dying. He's like, I can't do this anymore. And we're like, we're pretty far away. So
yeah, at this one you have to commit.
You have to keep going.
Because if you go back and something happens to you,
Yeah. So while we're trying to like, kind of push him along, like, all right, let's go. We see a black bear, maybe like 40 yards uphill. Yeah. So not like an immediate threat, but like way closer than you want a bear to be. And And so we're all looking at it.
Black bear, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a grizzly.
Yeah.
But a very large black bear.
Yeah.
And so we're all, hanging out. We're like taking pictures. We're just being still, waiting for it to pass. And our friend Abdul decides this is the time I'm gonna lay down and rest. Right? So he literally just sprawls out on the ground, and we all couldn't believe it. We're like, dude, the one thing is black bears are scavengers.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, here you are. You're like, come eat me. I'm easy prey. And I was like, dude, we're gonna leave you, man.
It's like seeing a giant snake and making a ton of movement.
It was like the exact opposite. Everything with the black bear is like they're no harm. You can scare them off. And Abdul's like, I'm gonna lay down and look like a dying animal.
Yeah. I mean, so much of that obviously comes from experience and knowledge. Like if you're not in that type of environment a lot, then obviously you're not going to be prepared or like know how to react as well. Crete actually recently went on a camping trip and he had a similar experience, and not with the black bear, but just like not being prepared, not only mentally but also physically. Like you have to obviously sleep like on the floor, and like you're not going to have air conditioning or heat, right? So there's going to be a lot of elements, in the mix and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it's just something that happens if you're not used to it. But as we're talking about training, and I would say just more generally self-improvement, you like to hit the gym.
I do like to hit
you
the
like
gym
to
from time to time.
You like to pick things up and put them back down.
Yep.
Ideally on your terms.
Yeah. Sometimes, not all the time.
Yeah. So tell us, how long have you been lifting, and what's the inspiration?
Well, I started lifting, with high school football. I played football.
What'd you play?
I played like outside linebacker, like
Nice.
nickel corner type deal.
Okay.
But
that's fun.
Yeah, it was. I liked playing high school football. But we had off-season training programs and weightlifting and all that, and so I got exposed to it at a pretty young age, and then people actually knew what they were talking about. So I learned how to do all the main lifts, and what to be, how to progress and things like that. And then it was on and off through college. A lot of distractions, if you could believe it or not, at college.
Who could believe it?
And then I feel like I really got the strongest in that 2-year period where I was living at home and then living on my own when I lived at an apartment in the suburbs. Because
this is COVID era, right?
Yeah, COVID and then a little bit after. But it was just, there was nothing else to do. So I that's the most serious I've ever taken working out. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really got into it. And I made some incredible progress that I'm, trying to keep building on.
So for you, progress looks in the form of, of course, I don't know if there are schools of thought or approaches, but of course there's powerlifting and there's bodybuilding. One is obviously from a powerlifting standpoint, bigger the number, the better.
Yep.
Bodybuilding standpoint is, you can think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, the GOAT, sculpting the body and using the weights to kind of serve that purpose.
Right.
Where do you fall in that?
I'm definitely on the I was on the powerlifting side the whole time.
You said you were. You said I was. Has that changed?
I'm debating it because I achieved my goal of, I hit a 2-plate overhead press, a 3-plate bench, a 4-plate squat, a 5-plate deadlift, and it's just not really realistic to go to the next one. So this past year, I've kind of been a man without a plan, going to the
a little
gym.
aimless.
Yeah, and I just don't have as much time. Living with Emma, living in the city.
What does that look like in terms of a shift from a workout plan standpoint?
It's usually bodybuilding, of course, is all isolation, all about being whatever's the most efficient to induce the maximum stress on your muscle in order to get the most hypertrophy and then therefore the biggest muscle possible. Whereas powerlifting is all about the big compound movements and just getting stronger than you were the day before. So it's powerlifting is more of a functional goal, and then bodybuilding is more of an aesthetic goal.
So in terms of your goals, let's say 5 years from now, do you have anything in mind, or are you still trying to figure that out?
I'm still trying to figure that out. As we get older too, you don't want to keep going heavy on all your joints and everything. I just want to be 5 years from now in great shape.
What about cardio? Is that in the mix either now or in the future?
It's got to be at some point.
Yeah, I know. It's just one of those things that, I mean, it's an obvious, not scapegoat, the opposite of that. It's one of those things that I think, especially within the bodybuilding, powerlifting circles, a lot of people say that they know they should be doing, and they just hate it.
Yeah.
They hate doing it.
Yeah, one day I'll be consistent with it, but it's like once a month I'm in a cardio mood. I'll do it 2 or 3 times, and then it's,
Do you play it? Do you, from a physical standpoint, do any other activities like play rec sports? I think you play basketball, right? Is that something you also try and keep up with at all, or just whenever it comes up?
Nah, I don't play basketball anymore. I love playing basketball in college, just because of the at the rec with all my friends, the intramural leagues. It was all really easy to play.
Oh, so much fun.
But now, there's just not as many gyms. And
yeah, you don't play the pickup at LA Fitness?
No. I think if I tried to shoot a basketball right now, I don't even know what it would look like.
Brick? Yeah. No, but those games can get competitive at LA Fitness. Like they can get after it. From what I've seen. No, but yeah, that's nice. Now, jumping forward, or what were we saying?
I was gonna say the only sport I play now is golf. I'm shifting to my old.
Oh yeah.
I enjoy golfing.
What do you? I guess what is it called? Handicap? Is that the?
No, I don't want to say that on
camera. Okay. Yeah, we'll save that. Yeah.
It's not good.
But
it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. I actually went recently, and I went with a couple of friends, and understandably, I was terrible at first, and then I turned on my pipe, and the tobacco, I think, is a performance-enhancing drug. It just locks you in.
Yep.
And shortly after there, I almost parred.
Wow.
I messed up on the putt. I was like I was maybe from here, I don't know, let's say like 10 feet. No, less than that. From a little bit past the camera. And those, I mean, from the little that I've been told and gathered from golf, putts are what make or break you.
Yeah, they are. They really are.
And from here to the camera, from a logical standpoint, it's like, oh, it's not that far. Like I just traversed hundreds of feet to get to this point. Yep. I just need to hit it into the hole right there. It's like mini golf. I played mini golf a ton of times, but the pressure is on when you're on the green. Yeah. So I messed up on the putt. That would have been a great story if I could say I parred on my first ever attempt at golf. I mean, that was the first time I've ever swung a golf club. Unfortunately,
not the case.
Yeah, didn't pan out the way I wanted it to. But yeah, I guess fast forwarding. I know we talked about how we met. I think now would be a good time to also talk a little bit about the bachelor party. Yeah. You joined me, of course. Maybe not what you would have anticipated the first time we met, but we made amends quick. I think the next, it was either the following day. No, it was the next time I came. Creets was there as well. We had a good time, of course.
Was that the LA water night?
Yeah. We had quite a memorable moment.
That was a bonding moment.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the next time. That might have been. There might have been two times in between or something like that.
I think it was. I think it was the next time, yeah.
I thought by that point we had already established a bit of a friendship. Oh, so it was coming out of that, we were like best friends.
I think that was because if I recall, Emma at that point was trying to get you to hang out with Creets and I as a way to foment the relationship or whatever. And so I remember you saying, you were like off the hook. You were like, as long as I'm hanging out with you guys, Emma's happy. Like, so this is like what she wanted. Yeah.
You're totally right. That is it. Is because we weren't friends yet.
Yeah.
And she said, "Yeah, you need to come over and then drink with the boys, and then hang out with them." And I said, "All right."
That's
I'll have a beer with anyone.
Yeah, it's like you have to take. It's like telling someone you have to receive these $100.
Yeah,
it's like you have to do this thing you want to do.
Excuse to get drunk. Oh, that was a night.
Oh, yeah. I can't carry cash after that. After that moment, I mean, I would say after that moment, it was sealed when we all wore pink sweaters.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the moment that really sealed it.
That next day at breakfast, when you guys came out in the pink sweaters, and then I was like, I got to go throw mine on. I just remember sitting down. I was like, now we're talking. Creets, like, this is a friendship.
Yeah, it's sealed. Yeah. And then we had the fish bowl. I should say you two had the fish bowl after. Yeah.
Split a fish bowl.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, it started off one way, but it's culminated in another. Obviously, we're here.
Yeah.
You joined me on the bachelor party.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was great to have you there. I'm glad you came. What was your experience on that bachelor party? Was it what you expected? Was it something else?
It was a little different than I expected, but also at the same time, I guess it wasn't that far off. I just wasn't ready for the heat and the humidity.
Oh yeah.
I've never really been to the Caribbean. Like I said, all my like travels have been either to like, you know, like national parks in the U.S. or to, you know, Europe just once or twice. And then the Caribbean heat, I will say, did a number on me.
Yeah, I mean,
do you want? Where should I start with telling that whole thing?
Well, I think, I think maybe a good place to start, as is always the case, is in the beginning. So, when we're going on this trip, you know, my boys are coming. Mm-hmm. How big is the group? Like 12 of us, something like that.
Had to be.
Most of us were here in Chicago, and so the move from here was essentially like the trip was basically starting in O'Hare, right? Yes. Like we're all getting together and we're starting off strong in O'Hare. Was the thought, and you could probably tell this better than I can, when we were trying to make our way through what's that before security, like just
the pre-check,
yeah, just like the pre-check, yeah. We were already encountering problems because
yes, you were,
because I was there with Creets. I'm trying to think of who else. If Grant or maybe Ahmed was there, and then you and Dalton were on the blue line separately, but like close to each other. And we were at the airport, or we were not even to security yet, facing issues because Alonzo, who had never flown before, or at least not internationally,
Alonzo sold.
He sold. He was the least experienced. And the first one, he kicked off the entire process, and unknowingly, I don't know if it was poor communication to him or his misunderstanding back to what the process was supposed to be.
He took checked
us all in, yes. And so from the airport standpoint, they thought we were all already past security and probably at the gate because he had gotten there so much earlier than us. Now, what was it that you experienced while you were seeing all these text messages fly through the group chat?
So I was on the blue line. I was having my boy breakfast of a energy drink, and a couple Zins,
and, upper deckers,
a couple upper deckers, and I'm sitting there and listening to music. I'm relaxing. I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be a really good weekend. And then all of a sudden, my phone starts exploding in this group chat. And, you know, messages are flying about Alonzo sold. And I'm like, it's still 3 hours before flight. I haven't even started thinking about it yet. And I have that one screenshot I'll always laugh at is the one where you're just immediately like, oh my God, we're so screwed. And I'm like, I'm not even there yet. Like, what could possibly be going on?
Yeah. Well, we were told, because Alonzo had already checked us in, they were like, if we're going to make this exception for you, you all need to be present, but you need to be present right now because we're only going to make this exception right now. And of course, it's not like you and Dalton could speed up the blue line, but I think you were a little bit behind Dalton, and Dalton said, I just got off the blue line. And we were like, where are you? And he was like, oh, I'm just walking. Like, he was like, I'm not in a rush. Like, didn't run or even jog or walk at a brisk pace the entire trip. Like, that was a prelude to the rest of the trip.
It was.
And of course, as we saw him walk up, he was just like totally blasé.
Yeah, totally chill.
Yeah.
To be fair to me, though, I wasn't checking a bag, so I had nothing to do with that.
That is fair. Yeah, that is fair.
I rolled up when I rolled up, all of this had already been sorted out.
That's true.
I walked through security in 4 minutes, and then I met you guys at the table, and I was like, what happened?
Yeah, and no, we went through our own like huge debacle. It was, that screenshot will live on in posterity because we were off to a terrible start, it seemed like, but we recollected, and we ended up having a good time. Yeah, in the Dominican, a lot of stories to tell. Although it was a total heater when we first landed.
Oh my God, I cannot believe how hot it was.
What was your experience when we landed and we had to wait for that bus.
So, well, first of all, when we landed, we had to wait for Grant's luggage.
Yeah.
And so we're standing in that airport, and I just remember I went to the bathroom to change into my shorts because I was like, it's so unbearably hot in this airport. This can't be possible. So when I changed to my shorts, Grant finally gets it all sorted out. They're going to send it to him. Well, and then we walk outside to the bus, and we open the door, and I'm just like, oh my God, it's this hot. Like
everywhere. Yeah. And you hadn't eaten? All you had was the boy breakfast?
All I had was the boy breakfast, which was no actual food.
Yeah, we had cleared the whiskey and I think the rum on the airplane.
I mean, shout out to, what was it, United that we were flying that day? Because
I think so, yeah.
Flight attendant gave our whole entire row free shooters for your bachelor party, which we drank.
Totally free alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, we literally, as soon as he said free, I think they were gone 30 minutes later. But so yeah, I had all that, no food, and then we walk out and we wait, I don't know, an hour and a half for this bus in steaming heat.
From a guy who was telling us, oh, it's almost here, it's almost here. Like the entire time, it's almost here.
Every 20 minutes, Creets would go up, talk to him in Spanish.
Yeah.
Like, Creets, good news. Like 20 minutes, we promise.
Yeah.
And we're there for an hour and a half.
No, and the morale was definitely extremely low at that point.
My
because
morale was so low. I could not believe how hot it was.
I mean, Grant, you kind of skimmed over this. Grant ended up having his carry-on sent to California, a place that, I mean, obviously is on the complete opposite side of the country, but he has his own qualms with California. And at that point, I mean, his morale was so low, he was like, dude, I don't even know if I want to be here. Like, I don't even have a change of clothes. Like, everything was in that bag, blah, blah, blah. And so we were, like, so down bad. I mean, we brought it back at the buffet where you basically, you walked into the buffet and whatever was within, like, a 20-foot radius of you, radial, is what you, like, picked up. You didn't even make it to the end of the buffet. Yeah.
And unfortunately for me, the first things was like the Asian station and the desserts.
Yeah.
So I came back with like sushi, orange chicken, a piece of cheesecake, like a random burger patty, not even on a bun.
Yeah.
Like all just this horrible thing of food because I was like, I just need to eat so bad.
Something, yeah.
And then so I completely mess up the buffet.
Well,
non-optimal plate.
Well, what was funny though was seeing the contrast between you, who was the first one to not only like get into the buffet and fill up your plate and sit down and start eating, compared to the last one to sit down, which was my brother, who had arguably a weirder selection of food. He had found like all the nooks and crannies of the buffet and managed to pick like the things that none of us had managed to pick out.
Yep.
And so ultimately. Yeah, the buffet ended up coming back to bite us because we were, as obviously the waiters were able to tell, we were a bachelor party, and so they kept ordering us rounds of drinks, and
warm beer and then buffet sushi on a completely empty stomach when you're already feeling a little bit heat sick.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oof. I'll tell you what. After that cold shower after dinner.
Yeah.
I was back.
I
was like, it was a good time. It was just a little bit of a struggle in between.
Yeah, no, everyone had their peak and valley, I would say.
Yeah.
There were a lot of peaks and valleys from everyone.
It was a war of attrition.
Yeah, it was.
Everyone had their own battle. Never at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it was good. And I would say Creets did an excellent job, from what I can tell. I mean, I wasn't a part of the planning process, which for anyone who is going through or is either going through it now or planning to go through, I would recommend as the groom, like, just let your best man, or if you're the bride, let your maid of honor like organize that. Because for me, I mean, it made it so much better not having to worry about that, and just saying like, okay, well, whatever you guys decide, like you guys let me know, and then we'll go with that. Because as the person getting married, I mean, there's so much that goes into wedding planning. That I think that was absolutely the way to go. So yeah, it was a great experience, and if you can find like a deal through work, like Creets was able to do that. Yeah. So yeah, it was great. It was overall a great time.
He ended up getting it through Costco.
Oh, you're right. Actually, yeah.
It was Costco was cheaper than his deal through work.
Yeah.
But one last thing about your bachelor party is I really appreciated you inviting me, and then I met so many people that I had met maybe in passing at one of your Jackie's events or something. But at the end of that, it was like we went through that together.
It's a brotherhood.
Like, yeah, we're friends now. You know? So I really appreciated you inviting me.
No, yeah, I'm glad you were able to join.
An excellent time.
Oh yeah,
all things considered.
No, all
the sunburn, all the
yeah, we enjoyed the ocean, the pool, everything Dominican Republic had to offer in terms of buggies.
Yeah. The buggy trip was just me and Lamar breaking down every 2 minutes.
Yeah. No, it was. And then people thinking he was a worker, so everyone kept coming up to him and speaking. Yeah, like, hey, can you come fix my buggy? He was like, I don't speak Spanish.
It wasn't even that racy. He looked just like him, because he was wearing the same black shirt and the bandana over his face.
Alonzo too. Like they would come up to Alonzo thinking that he was actually Dominican, and all things considered, I mean, he did look Dominican. Yeah, he ended up buying the Dominican bandana and everything, so which he continues to wear. So yeah, no, it was a great time. Good people. That was the island. Obviously, a lot of heat. We are actually experiencing, as we touched on at the beginning, a little bit of heat through this September. But yeah, we're back in the city. You and I actually live not too far. You're, what is it, like a mile southeast
Probably
from here?
A little bit less than that.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't
know. Easy walk for you. But you actually came here on the train. So this is something that I know you and I agree on. We actually agree on like 99% of things.
We do.
But we differ on like the one most important thing about how that actually gets applied. But we do agree on like everything.
Yeah, we're close. You said it yourself.
Yeah.
We're so close, but it's just...
Yeah, it's like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
But yeah, as we were just discussing about how close you live, or I should say I brought it up. Yeah, walkability is a big thing. Something that I started to really appreciate. I think it's just like a natural thing that I came to know, or kind of became aware of, especially in college, because ISU does such an excellent job about density within a small area and how walkable, and obviously it makes it so much easier for college students, and that's kind of like a big focus, is they don't have to rely on cars as they're going, from class to class. Now there are other college campuses that don't do as good of a job. I won't name any names, but I've been to other campuses and they don't do as good a job. But yeah, obviously we come back to the city, it's a big deal, and transit is a big deal. Obviously moving people around. How is it that you became either in the know or started to care about it to the degree that you actually like filled out surveys and like provided feedback to the city about what's important to you and what's not?
I would say, yeah, it also started in college, because I remember, in high school, all your friends, I grew up out in McHenry County in Crystal Lake, and you had to drive everywhere.
Yeah.
No matter where you wanted to go, you always had to drive. And it's just like it's just an annoyance, always having to have cars, or your parents drop you off or something like that. And then I got to college, Iowa, extremely walkable. The campus, the downtown bars and restaurants are all just right there.
It's very freeing.
It is, because I can walk from studying at the library to going to the bar with my friends to my apartment to the gym, like, easily. And I really appreciated that. And I think that's a real part of the enjoyability. It's just walking around and seeing everyone else, and I think that like community is kind of a part of it. And so like moving to the city from Arlington Heights, for instance, I had like that same feeling of like, I have a longer commute now on the train, which I'm glad that I can take the train instead of driving. Because if you've ever been on 90 during rush hour, I mean, good luck.
Yeah.
But yeah, Arlington Heights, same thing. Is you live somewhere, it looks nice enough, but every single place you need to go, you need to drive, you need to get in your car, and it's just by yourself, moving around. And then, there's just a certain aspect of like, community is what I keep coming back to. When you think about like walkability, it's just, I see the same people on my train commute, and I say, how's it going? Like my conductor, the afternoon conductor this past month is the most positive guy I met in my entire life.
Nice.
Every Friday he says, it's Friday. You know what that means? We're either going home or where you want to be. And I was like, that's a quote.
Yeah, there you go.
That's my guy.
Another proverb.
But it's just like something small and stupid. But that comes from having a walkable community with public transportation. With you don't have to just drive everywhere in your car. You get to sit on the
isolated
train.
from others.
Yeah, and you're just part of the people. Like I can, like on my way here, I left work. I bought a big beer from my gas station, and they got my order. They're pulling it out of the fridge as I come in. I get on my Friday train because they know I'm buying a beer every Friday when I'm on the train. And you know what I mean? Like it's just there's something like so dumb, but like also
No. I totally agree. Where you get the, in a way, being out in public should be a good experience, right? Because unfortunately, a lot of times when people go on public, if it's not ordered, or if it's not conducive to the traffic that's expected for that medium of transport, like is very common on the L, for example, where people are packed in like sardines. They get this misconception that like, oh, it's the train's fault. But no, I mean, the train is there serving its purpose, but what it's really indicating is essentially a need to further bolster the service that it's providing, because the demand is obviously there. It's really a supply issue.
Right.
So when you look at, let's say, like the city of Chicago, obviously one of the better cities as it relates to transport or public transit. Obviously, in the East Coast, you see a lot of that, but really in the Midwest, there's not anything I would say comparable to the city of Chicago. What is it that got you, maybe thinking about transit here in the city, and like what would you say are maybe some of your thoughts as to what the city could do to improve, or what are the things that you'd like to see them invest in?
So I guess what kind of got me thinking about it is like I use it, like I think that's with everyone is once you start using a service, you start caring about it a lot more.
True. Yeah.
And you want it to be the best it can be. And also just like the environmental impact of like microplastics from our car's tires is the worst environmental polluter.
Really?
That's why there's microplastics in our brain and our body. Tires are the number one contributor to that.
How does that pan out so obviously there's the rubber from the tire. How does that end up being ingested?
So when you drive, your tires wear down, right? So we got to change your tires every couple years. So, but as they wear down, that friction between the tire and the road, just all that tiny little rubber flakes off, sits on the road. It rains. It goes into the the drainage, goes into the sewer, goes into our water, and it's just kind of there. But car tires are the number one.
Interesting.
The number one thing. So like I love driving, but also
you are a stick shift driver.
I am.
Which is arguably, depending on how informed you are, the better driving experience. But
I do. I just feel guilty about driving so much all the time, especially like as far as I commute. If I drove every single day, the amount of
gasoline.
plastics, gasoline emissions. So like taking the train and public transit, I think is pretty important. And Chicago should continue to improve by expanding train lines, new stations, new bus lines, more frequent, and then I just think it all works itself out. I don't think there's ever been a city that was like, dang, our buses run so much and no one ever, like that really doesn't happen.
Yeah, and ultimately what you see as it relates to the city planning is there's such a big impact when cars are in the mix for urban development, because that's where you see like the copy-paste suburbia of having to work around everyone having a car, versus here, I mean, we're in a part of the city of Chicago that was constructed before the interstate, in a time when these buildings were occupied by many families with many children, and so the orientation of the city planning was geared towards walkability, and then also this is I think a big part is having production in the local community. So a big issue, I would say, and I'd like to get your thought on this too, is let's say like food production or even manufacturing or the creation of goods and services, or let's say goods, tends to take place not even outside of a city or even outside of a state, but to the point of it's like outside the country.
Yeah.
Right. And so what that necessitates is transportation in and out. if we were to support more of the local business and mom and pop shops and the ability for food to be produced in close proximity, you not only get a lower dependence on international and foreign trade, you also get just better skills and more local impact to where you don't need as much transportation because everything is being produced in your local environment.
Yeah.
So I think that's one aspect that, from a public transit perspective, a lot of people can advocate for new stations, new trains. That's all exactly what I think we need as well. But a kind of like a different angle is what'll open up the opportunity for people to prioritize walking over cars is also just having the ability to, I don't know, have like a chicken farm in their backyard, or being able to either use different zoning codes, not just for single family homes, but for like multi-use or stuff like that, right? Like that's such a big part as well.
That is huge. Yeah, the zoning codes is definitely a thing. Like that's you mentioned that I like reached out to my alderman or whatever. And the one email that I did write is about there was this proposed project, and it had a parking minimum.
Parking minimums.
Parking minimums in the city is it's just an abomination.
Yeah.
It's a mistake for so many different reasons. And it's a mistake that people keep making.
Yeah, I actually, just a quick tangent on that. I was talking to my spiritual director, Father Steve here at the church, and we were talking about hell. Not something that I encourage people to think too much about, but I said, I was thinking of a colloquialism for how I picture hell, and I said, I think about it as this giant parking lot.
Yes.
With nobody in it.
Yes.
Because every time you go to like a Walmart or something like that, and it's just extremely hot, and you have to walk through this pedestrian and like antagonizing parking lot, it's just miserable. But yeah, go on.
Well, no, I think that's a real thing. With it's just some mindset that people are so addicted to, and once you like free yourself that and you get back to cities were originally designed without parking lots, and they were denser, and then we tore them up with the highways, and then we said we need parking. But like a story in actually here in Chicago, the United Center, how it's surrounded on all sides by parking lots, which drives me crazy because I love going to Bulls games because they're so close to me, and I can take the 9 bus right down, walk to the Bulls game, have drink all I want, and not have to worry about driving, get right back in the bus home. But if I wanted to get, I go there with my friends all the time. It's a Friday night or whatever. We go to a Bulls game, and they go, let's get a beer after the game. The nearest bar is like 20 minutes all the way in West Loop. Yeah. And it's like at this point we just get on the bus and we take the bus to Wicker Park where it's walkable, and then we go to a place there. Yeah. And it's like the United Center should be like a like you talk about like a community space, right? Yeah. But once you're there, it's just parking lots all surrounding it, and you have to walk over a half mile. It's like a moat to the city. Yeah. Yeah. And so they're talking about buying out all these empty parking lots and actually like revitalizing and putting in like businesses and stuff.
Oh, for sure.
And even if it's just like commercial crap, it's something instead of just having what should be one of our big tourist destinations for concerts, for basketball games, of just sitting in the middle of just parking lots.
Yeah, make it productive. I think that's one of the things that Wrigleyville does such an excellent job at. That I think Guaranteed Rate Field. I work there, and I'd like to see them thrive. And I think, well, White Sox performance aside, what would kind of revitalize that area is, the livelihood that comes with an actual environment aside from the main attraction, where you're able to encourage people to make more of an investment, not just in the particular team, but in saying like, hey, even if the Cubs weren't doing well, and for 100 years they weren't, the Wrigleyville area was still a place where people went and communed and had a great time, right? And unfortunately, I think, like you said, it's this kind of mindset of, well, we need to think about the cars. Like, what are people? How are people going to get here? It's like, well, if you build places, residencies for people to actually live closer to the stadium and build more access, make the bus actually be able to circumvent the traffic with its own lane, like, those are the things that really enable people to be incentivized and say, hey, now I'm going to look at this other method of transportation, and if it's a good experience, I mean, there you go. Like, that's all you need.
I see it as a win-win, and I just think it's really the mindset holding people back. Because if you're, one of these owners like Jerry Reinsdorf, and would you rather have people drive in park, go to your game, and immediately drive back? Or would
Right.
you rather have them, take a train in, now they're here, maybe, oh, you know what, I'm hungry, maybe I'll get something to eat because it's right here, and then I can just get right back on the train and go home whenever I want. So I really think that there's like an economic like advantage
Yeah.
that people just sometimes can't see because it's so built into our zoning laws
Right.
and the way we've been doing things for the past 50, 60 years of parking. And I really think it hurts communities.
Yeah. I mean, the zoning is like arguably the hardest part. Is people don't want. I mean, and this goes back to as a property owner, or as we were talking about the tragedy of the commons, and then the way that people perceive property is property nowadays is actually an investment, and people care more about their own good versus the common good. And you see like this incentive to try and protect your quote unquote net worth, where you don't want to ruin it with either new developments or possible change in the neighborhood, because that might affect, for a lot of people, it's their nest egg, their retirement, right? And what I would say is ideally real estate isn't the sort of safety vehicle for your economic energy. It's actually just a productive asset that you use and price it in terms of productivity, not in terms of, hey, my depreciating asset is actually going up in value. I mean, that's a red flag in and of itself, right? Like, how is it that an asset that's actually getting older and deteriorating actually going up in value? Like, if we're trying to make that the marker for someone's financial health, like that's already, I would say, a big red flag.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I guess we're coming up on time. A good place to wrap up is, and this is a new segment that was proposed by, well, I shouldn't say proposed. Maddie Brennan, I had her on, and she asked a question for Sargon, who was my last guest. And I had him, actually, I messaged him earlier, and I said, I'd like you to ask my next guest, I didn't let him know who it was, a question, and then I'll have you do the same for the next guest. So I said, what's a fun question you'd like to ask? He said, if you were a candle, which scent would you be and why?
Which scent would I be?
And it's going to live for posterity. So.
All right, I would be fresh balsam.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What brought that to mind?
Well, that's Emma's favorite candle.
Oh, nice.
And second of all, it's like it's a beautiful pine tree, and it smells very wintry, very fresh. It's very good scent.
Yeah, a little crisp, if I recall.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Nice. Yeah, I think I was thinking about this a little bit, and I think for me it would be like I'm forgetting the second ingredient, but it'd be like myrrh and frankincense.
Okay.
Which is
smell like Jesus, right?
Exactly. Yes. The thurible. Yeah. I actually received a gift from Ashby, Krita's younger brother, and he went to Spain. He went to Santiago de Compostela, northern Spain, Galicia, north of Portugal, which you were at recently.
Yeah.
And they did the high mass because the King of Spain was actually there, and so the Archbishop, I think, conducted the mass, and they have the thurible, which is the kind of like the gold thing
gold, that almost urn.
Yeah, it's like an urn. Yeah, that has the incense in it. But this thurible that's called botafumiero is humongous. Like it hangs from the top of the church, and it's like a giant what's the word I'm looking for? That
like a swinging.
Yeah, like a swinging thurible that goes from one side of the church to the other. I mean, the thing is bigger than you. Like and they push it across the entire church, and like the incense is just everywhere. And he brought me a rosary actually with the scent, and I'm like, I hope this like never goes away because I can just like get that scent. Olfactory, underrated. Cigars. That's why I like cigars. Tobacco.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think this is a good place to wrap up. Unless you have anything else that you'd like to add on?
No, I think we covered a lot. I hope I didn't talk too much.
No. That's what this is for. Yeah. If you have any shout outs or anything else, actually, this is going to live in posterity, so I do want to get your perspective on this. Bear season 1-1.
1-1.
Where do you see it going for the rest of the season?
I am unfortunately optimistic.
Yeah.
I think. Listen, there was a lot of things that went wrong against the Texans week 2, but rookie quarterback, new coaches, new line. Everyone's new. I think it'll take a little bit to gel. I think this week we got the Colts.
You think it'll gel this season or the next?
I think we can turn it around this season to be respectable.
Okay.
But I think I don't know. I think the kid's going to be good.
All
I think
right.
he's going to be good for a while. And this
Yeah, here we
this
go.
isn't
Yeah.
going to be the first time I'm on record saying that I think a Bears quarterback is going to be good, and he turns out to
Yeah,
suck. So.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you could play this back for like
Yeah, the
many,
past
many
like 20 years.
Yeah,
If I was podcasting when they drafted Justin Fields, I'd be like, this guy's the next one.
yeah. No, that reminds me of I forget if it was I forget his name. This like huge Packers fan, and they drafted I think like Jordan Love 3 years ago, maybe 4 now. And he was just like, oh no, we like wasted a pick, like he's trash or something.
Yeah.
It was either him or Christian Watson, I can't remember. And it's just one of those clips that you just go back and you're like, you're so wrong, you know? But yeah, we'll see. I mean, it would be great for the city of Chicago because unfortunately, despite as big of a city as we are not
Not a good sports town.
we're
actually.
yeah. The last we really had was the Cubs, 2016.
2016.
The Blackhawks, like 2013 around there, and
20. It was like 15, 13, and 11 or something.
Oh, yeah,
they
there you go.
won like 3 in like a
yeah.
pretty short period.
But and then before that was Jordan. So
This might be a tough stretch.
yeah, so we'll see. But yeah.
Yeah.
If nothing else, then I think this is a good place to wrap up. Thank you very much for joining me.
All right, thanks for having me on.
Good little handshake to wrap up. For those of you that made it this far, I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you in the next episode. Thank you, and ciao. All ready to go? Had to get one sip in. All right, now we're ready.